back again.
We are. Another week of our 3-part series.
Yeah, what's this one about? I don't know if I remember.
This one is about the next one in the GFC line.
Up here.
Family. So tonight we're going to talk about family, and me and him are a little biased because we are family.
Yes.
And
it's one of my favorite things to talk about.
It is.
We've done it on these.
We have done it.
Our dad's one where we talked about being dads. That was one of my favorite.
That was a great conversation. I loved that one. And for us, if you can't tell, anytime we get to talk about each other or our families or whatever, we kind of beam with this different.
Yeah, because we're a family.
Yeah, I think we're. It's like it's not pride, but it's a sense of joy. You know,
I like that better. Yeah, more joy
that you get to talk about, because we get to do every day, or not every day, but every time we film, we get to make stuff with our 82-year-old grandma. Yeah. Well, my 82-year-old grandma, but basically like a grandma.
I've known her long enough.
Yeah, she's basically like, you're like if you could say like an adopted grandma.
She's a grandma figure to me.
Yeah. Granny is your grandma as well, so we get to be around her, around like your uncle, my dad, and the operation that we both worked at before in our lives, and being a part of that. So family is a huge part. If y'all haven't noticed, of everything we do.
Yep.
And then outside of our lives here that you all are very familiar with, we're both family men.
Yep.
We both come from very strong families, and we married into very strong families. And family is at the essence of who we are as people. And that's why we promote family so much, because...
I got news.
What's your news?
I'm growing my family.
You are?
Yep.
What'd you do, plant a little seed? Or
Yep, planted a seed.
You did?
Yep. We're about to have a baby girl.
I knew this, so I can't act like I'm surprised.
First time
he sold, so congratulations.
It'll be my second kid.
And that's in a few months, right?
Yep, just a couple months.
All right,
so y'all need some time off, by the way. If you can.
I don't know if y'all knew this, but at the ranch, there's no such thing as paternity leave at the farm. You better ask Gate Bar. Better ask Daryl about that.
Yeah, well, we'll talk. We'll have a conversation. I'll ask Granny. She'll be more sympathetic.
I don't know. She's tough sometimes.
That's true.
Well, back in my day, we didn't even have maternity leave.
Can't you just bring the kid with you?
Well, again, congratulations to you.
You.
And y'all be saying a prayer for Jarrett and Lucy, his lovely wife, and their family as they grow it. But we're going to talk about family, because without family, this whole thing that we're promoting and talking about every week, and where our country's founded on, without having family, you have nothing too. God is at the core of that foundation, but on that foundation of God, what do you start building first?
You build your family.
You build your family. It's throughout the Bible. Many times God says, go be fruitful and go multiply. I command you to go do this, do this. Like, grow your family, grow my people, grow. Because what does a family do? It exemplifies what? God's love for us.
Yep. And I was thinking, there's all those books in the Old Testament, and it's just like names and names and names and names and names. You know why? Because that's a family. That's a family lineage that's been going on. And what was that? I used it last week. Your posterity.
Yeah,
I hope I'm saying that right. Your posterity, not your posture.
Posterity.
Speaking of posture.
You and was it repertoire or reservoir?
Your reservoir.
People remember that one.
And your posterity. But yeah, we're talking about like your family lineage. That's kind of like, that's the point of all those names in there, is that they were keeping track of the line of that family.
Yeah.
Because I heard somebody say that, I can't remember who it was, they don't make a decision unless they determine on how that's going to affect their family 7 generations from now. Mm-hmm. Most people don't think about that. They don't think about the things that you do today are going to affect your family and those that come after you years and decades and, I don't know, hundreds of years from now.
Well, think about this. This is what I love to think about. We started Didier Ranch here, promoting our family's beef. That's came from generations ago, 5 generations ago from me. And my great grandfather Pierre came from France and started this dream here. And that lineage, he had to have the vision, like, I'm coming here. The reason I'm coming to America is to better my life, better my kids' kids, better my children's children. And he had that vision, and it's lived on throughout his son, August, to my grandpa, to my dad, to me. Now it's being passed down to our kids. Like, they're going to experience this family heritage that we've had that's been enriched in us. It's basically, like we talked about, a family enterprise.
Yeah, building your family enterprise.
But that's a huge part of what the Bible is always talking about, too. A family is started, and you want to create this legacy, this lineage, the way down, and it starts at the foundation of having faith and having a God and believing in that, and then instilling that in your family and your kids as they go down, because life gives you so many trials and tribulations, and without having faith and having your family there to being
Yeah.
strong with you, you're not going to survive that. That's what I keep thinking about with this thing. My family survived. They survived World War One, losing kids in that,
Yeah.
surviving the Dust Bowl, surviving depression, surviving. It's still here, 120 years later. This
Yeah.
ranch is still
going.
here.
Yep.
And I'm like, it blows my mind when I really sit back and think about it. But it's like, think about what got them through it.
Yeah.
Faith, perseverance, determination, fortitude. And that all comes from having a belief in something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, that foundation that we talked about last week, about God being the foundation that you build your family on. And that's kind of something I wanted to read here from 1 Timothy. It says, "But those who won't care for their relatives, especially those in their own household, have denied the true faith. Such people are worse than unbelievers." Is you denying to take care of your family
Yeah.
is worse than not believing in God. That's what it says right there in 1 Timothy. And I think, who wrote Timothy?
Timothy was...
That was Paul.
Yeah.
That was one of his letters, his
Yeah.
many letters that he wrote. But he's talking about taking care of your family, and that's what we try to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to continue, like you said, your family legacy, and you try to build on that family legacy, and you do that through your faith in God and building your family through the whole thing that God has created for us. You take what God's word says and put that into your family to help them generations from now.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting at too, is like he instills that in us to instill in our family so it can continue to live on and create and strong men, women to live on and do his work too.
Yeah.
But it all starts with the higher ups, the patriarchies and matriarchies of a family, and to instill it down. And it's like God's our father, and he gives us the human form to be fathers for our, the earth versions of our souls and spirit.
Yeah,
but
while we're here.
yeah, so we're kind of guidance to our family, but there's people who came before us that are our guides, and that's very important. And that's why the nuclear family is so important.
Yeah.
And people, that's something, if you really want to get into the weeds of what's going on in what we talked about, touching on the country we're going to touch on next week, is like, when you really want to question, why do you think they want to devalue the family?
Yeah.
Why is a father's presence not important? Why is like us not living together, being close, wanting to have conversations? Like there's siblings who don't talk to each other. There's families that don't get together for Christmas
most
anymore.
of the people in prison come from a single parent household.
That is a factual
because
stat.
they don't have a nuclear family put together. And even building on the nuclear family, we were talking about, it's important to have like your in-laws and your parents and your cousins, like anybody that's close to you. It's important to have them, like to have a system where you can lean on each other, because you never know when you're going to need somebody.
Well, you need that example.
Your brothers and sisters growing up, like just have those people in your life to help you raise your kids and help raise their kids. Like I've had my sister-in-law, she's had to babysit for us, just stuff like that. Having my parents be able, so we can go on a date night, you know.
And this isn't too, like, the people who maybe you don't have that luxury, and that's what I'm saying.
A lot of people don't.
But you can be the person who changes that in your DNA and in your family. You can be like, I didn't have that, but I'm gonna it's starting with me and my family. I'm gonna instill it in my kids, and that's the best way you can do God's work too, and helping make our country better.
Yeah.
Is literally say, you know what, I'm gonna have a family, and this is how we're gonna do it, and we're gonna do it in ways I didn't have. So whether you've had the great examples like we have, or you have to look at examples from other and get help in different ways, it starts with you.
You can be that turning point in your family to lead your family on the right path that you want them to go, that God created for your family to go on. It doesn't matter like what has happened before you. If your family has been a mess, which a lot of people's families have, and stuff has happened either because of someone or because of something outside of their control, you can be that turning point in your family to lead them to what God has created for us to do.
Yep. You can be the change, the old Gandhi saying, be the change that you want to see in the world, and be the change you want to see in your family. That's what you do. You can do today. If you didn't come from the best, or even if you come, like we always talk about, pick and choosing from others, and like morphing that into the best version of what we can today for today in today's society, today's world. And now with the nuclear family being attacked so much, like it's time to like teach your kids, like, all right, because that's not right. It's time to, like we always talk about, rebelling against that. It's trying to teach your family, your kids, like that's not. You know what? Maybe it is time that we say that's not that normal. It ain't normal.
Yeah,
like, that normal is not cool.
Like God's way is the best way to be prosperous and to have your family work together. like we talked about being an enterprise, is God's plan for us is to live with our families and to have a strong family to build on. And that's like we're going to talk about in our next one is country.
Yep.
And having strong families is how you build a strong country.
Yep.
And
why do they call it the Founding Fathers? I'm not wearing
Yeah.
my Rebel Farmer shirt, but
Yeah.
they call it the Founding Fathers because they were
Yeah.
the fathers of our country.
yeah, because those are the families. They had families that helped build this country.
Yeah.
And honestly, a lot of stuff going on these days is because, like I talked about the prison stat, like a lot of that is because the disintegration. That's a big word for me too.
Disintegration.
Disintegration. I still can't say it. The
Disintegration.
falling apart. Does that sound the same?
That works.
The falling apart of families in this country is a lot of what's going on. You know, like we really need to rebel against the things that have been happening to cause that.
Because they didn't have family, and that family to instill the principles of having a God. And what did we going back to last week's? That foundation of God is so important.
Yes.
And without having leadership in a family to instill that, it all comes crumbling down.
Yeah.
Right?
And we just got to rebel against the crumbling of the family.
Yeah, that's why it's high time that we start laying our own foundation, a new foundation. You can do it here on the same soil.
Yeah.
But we may have to relay this foundation and start building up again. And I think it starts with people who believe in God, family, and country.
That's what we're working for.
Amen.
I like that.
All right. Well, that was part 2 of this week's of this series that we're doing over the next few weeks.
Yeah.
And next week we're going to be talking about something that we're
just
very
gonna keep getting expanded wider and wider.
Yeah, but it's
God right here, your family, and your country.
And we'll tell you how it all, at the end of the day, correlates.
Yeah, it goes right together.
All right.
You guys have a great week.
And God bless y'all.